Hi, I'm Susanna. I am the editor-in-chief of the American Philatelist, and this is the AP sneak peek for the July 2023 issue. Every year we get to have the really fun show issue where we tell you everything about what to expect about the Great American Stamp Show. This year, GAS, as we like to call it, is in Cleveland, and so we're really digging into the excitement of the show, the excitement of shows, exhibitions, world fairs more generally, and bringing it all together into one issue about the best and brightest of shows that this world has seen. So the cover was designed by Chad Cowder. He's our graphic designer. He started off with this inspiration, 1930s style graphics. He took the skyline of Cleveland, which is where the show is, and he recreated like the iconic look of the buildings as kind of an outline, very bold colors. He also added in a Zeppelin at the top right corner. And the Zeppelin represents one of the articles that's in the issue. This article is by Cheryl Gons. It is about the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, which actually had a Zeppelin come across during the event. Chad also added in a Zeppelin that's meant to represent the Chicago World's Fair of 1933, which Cheryl Gons discusses in her article in this issue. And the Zeppelin is putting out kind of a bat signal to entice people to come to Great American Stamp Show in Cleveland. So we've got this little bat signal of a postmark. It says Great American Stamp Show, Cleveland, Ohio, August 10th through 13th. So we're signaling, and we hope that you come. Obviously, the big highlight of this issue is what can you do and what can you expect to find when you come to Cleveland and attend the show. We are doing a lot of really cool things at this show. One of the most exciting, I think, is that we have scheduled 8 different first day ceremonies or stamp unveilings. So we have 2 from the United States Postal Service. We have a celebration of the 100th anniversary of the first day covers, the 1000th stamp by Martin Mork. He is an extremely prolific stamp designer and engraver. So we're celebrating that. We're also celebrating the Faroe Islands 1000th stamp. We also have kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Royal Philatelic Society London is bringing over a really special exhibit, 50 frames, and these are classic stamps of Britain and the British Empire. These are stamps that you're not going to be able to see in person really anywhere else. So that's a really exciting exhibit that we have coming. And I'll be there. You can come and see me, you can come and see a bunch of the other APS staff. We're all driving down in a van. Actually, we're taking several trips, but we're all driving down together. We'll be scattered across the show floor. You can ask us about our services. You can ask me about the AP. You can give me recommendations for articles. You can be prepared for me to ask you to write an article if you give a recommendation. So as I said, we traveled to the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. That is an article by Cheryl Gons, who's the new APS president. And she talks about these iconic images that appeared on the stamps of this fair. We also traveled to the Pacific Northwest, 1909. There was a Yukon exhibition, another world fair in that year, which the author illustrates through a bunch of different postcards. Cheryl Gons is, of course, our brand new APS president, and even before she knew she was president, she promised to write this article for us. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, one of Cheryl's special interests is Zeppelins. She published a book recently on them. She's one of the world's foremost experts on the philately of Zeppelins. Actually, the way that Cheryl brought Zeppelins into this issue was through the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. And actually, world fairs on their own are kind of an extremely exciting philatelic topic. You know, they were these international exhibitions. They showed like technological progress, scientific progress, cultural displays. They were these huge events drawing millions of visitors to these cities that were hosting them. And these are very rich grounds for philatelists and other collectors because most of them issued one stamp, several stamps, some issued many stamps that were connected to the fair. There's a lot of postcards that comes from these. There is a lot of related ephemera, posters, programs that you can find, and most of these fairs have their own dedicated post offices, so you can find these stamps that were issued during the fair with postmarks that you could only find if you were in attendance at the fair. So it's really rich ground for collectors, as well as being kind of exciting world events. Anyway, so Cheryl covered the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. The stamps that were issued for this fair included one with the Graf Zeppelin on it. The Graf Zeppelin was a German airship, kind of iconic, that was doing these round the world trips at the time. So the Zeppelin flew right over Chicago during this period, during the World Fair. One of the other stamps has this iconic structure that I believe was built just for the World Fair. But all the World Fairs, or maybe not all of the World Fairs, but most of the World Fairs included these iconic structures. For example, the Space Needle in Seattle was built for like the 1964, I should check that. I have that information right here. The Space Needle, 1962. So the Space Needle in Seattle was built in 1962 for that World Fair. And obviously it still exists. So like these iconic structures like that, like the rocket thrower in New York that was built very specifically for that. Anyway, so that's what Cheryl's article is about specifically. It was also fun to explore these other kind of iconic structures. And you know, a lot of them were built and were torn down again immediately after, so they don't exist anymore, except for what you can find on stamps, photos, other ephemera. We have two nearly brand new, very recent columnists who have joined our ranks. That's Matt Leapson with his new column, The Marketplace, and Charles Upding with his new column, The Letter Opener. Both of these columns are intended to help you, to answer your questions, to break down these kind of difficult concepts. So if you have any questions about, you know, how does the philatelic marketplace work? How do I buy and sell using this avenue or this avenue? Like, how do I figure out how to value my stamps? What do I do if I've found a collection in my attic? So essentially we want to answer your questions. We want this to be a very useful column for you. So if you do have any questions, any topics that you'd like to see us cover, you can email me, editor@stamps.org, or you can email the columnist Matt Leibson, and his email address is paperhistory@att.net. And of course, Charles Epting would also welcome your questions. So if you have any questions about postal history, how to understand the markings on a cover, big picture questions about how mail has moved, especially in the US, over the years, Charles would be glad to take these recommendations. And you can also email me at editor@stamps.org if you have topics to suggest. There's one final piece of this issue, which is always quite exciting, which is our announcement of who won the Grand APS Awards for the year. So these are the prestigious LEF Awards for research, for service to the APS, and for service to philately, the hobby on the whole. These are other awards of research, volunteer awards, bringing newcomers into the hobby. All of those achievements are celebrated in this issue. So congratulations.